It's our mock draft episode. Tonight, we will be participating in a live mock draft with guest Joe Pisapia of FantasyPros. We'll talk players and strategy as we go to give you, the listener, an idea of how to navigate your own 2025 fantasy drafts. You can follow along as we go just by listening, or you can have the completed draft in hand by going to this podcast release on Fangraphs. We'll post the link for you. The Beat the Shift mock draft episode is coming up next. And welcome to another episode of the Beat the Shift podcast. I am your host, Ariel Cohen, and with me as always is Ruvain Guy. What's going on, Ruvain?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Spring training games are going on right now. It's pretty incredible. Can't wait to get into it. And we've got a great show. So many listeners have requested this. We do this every year, and it's just a great exercise in putting your words, your money where your mouth is, so to speak. Well, not exactly. No money is on the line here, but it's putting the practice of what you preach right here. It's our mock draft episode, and we have no better person to bring on from Fantasy Pros, our buddy Joe Pisapia. What's going on, Joe?
I love the intro music to this show. It's very early, mid 80s,
Yes.
bosom buddies sort of sitcom music. I mean, I was picturing you turning around, Ariel, and smiling at the camera, just right before the show. I mean, it's perfect. It suits you so well. And yeah, man, it's fun to be on here. I appreciate you guys having me on for a little mock draft action.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we get a lot of compliments about, there should be a category of best podcast music, right, Ruvain?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, do you even own a sweater? I mean, because that completes the picture. Turning around and wearing the brown striped sweater.
I don't wear any
Smiling.
sweaters. I don't think I own a
I know
sweater.
that.
I've got a Mets sweatshirt, but no sweaters. Are you
Not
a
a
sweater,
sweater
guy?
guy.
No.
Really?
All
I
these
mean, I
years,
wear
Ariel.
shorts all year round, so,
Ah, you're that guy. Well, that
To
explains
each
a lot.
their own. To each their own.
All right, well, here's how it's going to work. We're going to do a little bit of strategy, as always. Then we'll do our mock draft. We'll go with it. We'll make the mock draft public on our Fangraphs page here so that you can see the completed stuff as you go along with it, if you'd like to. But just great tips along the way, and we'll keep it strategy-focused, as we always do. But first of all, Joe, just going to throw it out to you very generally. When you're doing a draft, what are you looking to accomplish?
Well, I always say this, the draft is about acquiring talent. That's what you're trying to do. Acquire the most talent you possibly can. Take your calculated shots when you feel like it's a good return on your investment. But I think far too often the biggest mistake people make, and I always talk about this in the Black Book series too every year, is, people are like, oh, well, I need this, or I need a shortstop now, or I'm like, no, you don't. You need the best players you can get on your roster. And eventually, injuries happen, waiver wire happens, trades hopefully happen in your league, and there's turnover. So what you're trying to do is use the picks to the best of your ability to acquire the most talent I feel like you possibly can. And if you can do that consistently, I think you're going to have a lot of successful rosters.
Ruvain?
Profit. Besides talent, you want profit. You don't want to just get whatever that pick is equal to. You want to get more, because if you just get whatever the pick is equal to, or whatever you think it's equal to, you're only going to finish middle of the pack. You have to try to get a profit. You have to try to find the sleepers. I know it's very hard to find sleepers nowadays because there's so much media out there. It's very hard to find sleepers, but there are sleepers if you know where to look, if you know how to budget your time and your money.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I'll just add to it that when you're trying to find the profit and you're trying to make the best team most valuable along the way, you do have to take a little bit of game theory. And if you see there's a cluster of shortstops in the middle, maybe don't take a shortstop early on. Or if you see that there's plenty of pitching in a certain round, book that there and don't take pitching in a different round. You want to take picks early on to make it easier and more flexible to move on. If you're going to take a guy who doesn't steal at all, well, then you might have to press the steals button later, and you have to take a player earlier than you might would, and, you don't want to do that. You want to have guys who are multi-dimensional players who are going to get a little bit of every stat, so that if you have a guy undervalued later on who hits homers, great, grab him. A guy who's later on who's a pitcher, grab him. You want to be flexible early on while getting the most value, but setting yourself up for different directions as you never know how the draft is going to go. Joe, KDS selection. If you had to pick your draft slot, and by the way, we picked the draft slot for Joe. Joe's going to pick 12th. But if you had to pick your draft slots, where do you like to be? The beginning, the middle, or the end?
Yeah, Ariel, I'm really glad that I practiced a couple of mocks before I came here, thinking where I was drafted in a different spot. And right before the show, he just pulls the rug out from me, sends me down to 12. I'm just teasing. But look, if you could be KDS right now and you could take that one spot and get Otani, I mean, why wouldn't you? Especially if you're getting the hitter and the pitcher. I mean it's just madness. And I think, you can make any draft spot work at the end of the day. But I do think this year in particular, I feel really good about Bobby Witt, obviously Otani at the top. It's hard not to feel good about Aaron Judge and Jose Ramirez. So anything in that top four feels really good. But then if you're not in four, I tend to like to be at the turns personally, because then the draft kind of comes to you a little bit. Sometimes it's hard in the middle, especially if you're in a good room with a lot of people where, you kind of miss out on runs on one way or the other, and you really get the draft dictated to you a little bit more as opposed to being able to control a little bit more of it. So I prefer to be on, either in the top few or the bottom few personally. I don't know about you guys.
I'm the exact opposite, by the way. I actually like being in the middle because...
Of course, because you're wearing shorts and you just don't care. You just
exactly
carefree.
Maybe, but I actually think you can avoid runs by being in the middle because you won't get caught at the end. If it's going the other way, there's nothing you can do. And I'm a value drafter. So if I'm drafting at an end and I think a guy is a value, I have to guess whether he's going to be available in 30 picks from now. But if you're in the middle, you only have 12 or 15 picks or so between. You can take a chance, wait for a guy, and scoop up the value next time around. Can't do that when you're waiting all that time for 30 picks if you're at an end. So I like it that way. Ruvain?
Well, I like the middle, also more toward the end, like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that slot right there, because I think you can get a better temperature of the room already when the first couple of picks go around, and you're able to feel what positions are hotter in the room, and it just, I think it's just easier. You get a better feel of the board, and I think that's the best possible way. But you can win from any spot. I mean, last year if you were number one, you probably couldn't win because you lost Acuna, but you can probably win from any slot if you know how to draft properly.
Yeah, I'll say, though, that I think a top 4 pick is pretty good this year. Otani, Witt, Judge, Ellie De La Cruz. I think those, to me, are the solid 4, so I'd rather be at 4 than at 6 this year. But if I can't get one of those, then I'll grab the middle. All right, any lessons that we've learned so far this year, Joe, from doing drafts or mock drafts, or any lesson that you want to look to learn tonight for some reason?
Well, drafting with you two tonight, so it's going to be a whole new experience. Lessons that I've learned, again, there's definitely some significant drop-offs at certain positions, and when you're playing in these deeper leagues with the 5 active outfielders, you got to pound outfield, I think, a little bit earlier. I've also found that I really like my teams more often than not when I wait on pitching. We'll see if that works out tonight in this draft we're doing here, but I do think that there's a really good grouping of these, number 2-ish guys this year that are just really solid and give you a lot of, I think, number 1 performances on a semi-regular basis, as opposed to spending those early picks on pitching, because it's really tough to miss out on those elite hitters in the last, I would say, 2 or 3 years, but it feels like this is another one again where it's just like, you know what? I'm just not feeling any of these pitchers that have that kind of value personally. I want the offensive players first to start my rosters with.
I agree. And I've done a couple of real drafts in the NFBC, and one build where I picked Tarek Skubal first, and I didn't love it.
It's hard.
Yeah, I'm usually like you, Joe. Just wait and get and get up your first pitcher in the 4th, 5th round. I will say those second basemen. I've seen second baseman pushed up really higher than I thought. So I picked Ozzy Albies in one draft because I knew that later on, those second basemen are going to be going, you'd have to pay up for them. So I think second baseman is something I've seen being pushed up.
And also you have to expect the unexpected, because a lot of times you think something's going to happen and the ADP. Sometimes you have the ADP right in front of you, but every person is their own entity, and you never know what you're going to get when you come into a draft.
All right, so today we're going to have a 14-team draft. Our listeners are mainly 12 to 15 teamers, so we thought we'd do something a little bit in between. 14 teamers, standard NFBC type settings, traditional roto with 2 catchers. You got the 1st, 2nd, 3rd short, 5 outfielders. So as Joe said, you might want to push outfielder a little bit quicker. We also have 1 utility, a corner, and a middle, and 9 any pitchers. We'll also do 3 bench spots just to see if we can pick our next few afterwards. Okay, so in the 2 slot is Ruvain. I'm in the 7 slot. Joe, you've been punted to the 12 slot. So we're all going to be at different points, front, back, and middle, and we'll just talk about picks as we go is how it's going to work. Joe, you got the button on the pause machine, so let it rip, and let's see what Ruvain will go first with.
The draft has officially been resumed, and I can only assume that Ohtani will go first overall. And what do you guys, we're waiting. Let's filibuster. Your expectations of Ohtani, the pitcher this year, Ariel. What's the over-under on the starts made for you? We want to set it at 20?
No, I'm going to go lower than 20. I'm going to set it at about 15.
Okay.
I'm going to say about probably 17, only because I don't think the Dodgers want to risk any sort of injury whatsoever in him, and they want him on the field.
Oh, look at this. What a gift to start. Bobby Witt goes 1.
Really? Okay. Well, actually, that's not a bad idea with, in a roto league that you don't block your DH. But
That's interesting because I was going to take Witt at number 2. I mean, how do you not take Ohtani here? I mean,
yeah.
I guess I could take Judge, but because of you mentioned about the 5 outfielders, but you can't turn up Ohtani if you're sitting at 2 and he's there. So I just took Ohtani.
Ohtani it is. We got Judge, Ramirez, Ellie De La Cruz, Juan Soto. So I'm in going with there's some shortstop clustering in the middle, 5 outfielders. Kyle Tucker does it all, has every single stat. Gunnar Henderson, you're missing some stats there. For me, it's Kyle Tucker. It's an easy decision.
All right. What do you think of Tucker with the Cubs now? What are your expectations for him?
Well, he's playing for a contract, so I think he's going to have a good year. Cubs have some hidden potential in there. They didn't sit idly this year. I mean, I know they did trade away Bellinger to the Yanks, but I think he's going to have a rebound. I think he's going to steal more than he has in the past. So I'm high on Tucker for this year.
Yeah, and playing in Spain.
I hate to be a homer
field,
here,
great.
but I'm going to go ahead and start with Lindor at shortstop here and just go ahead and take him. It was between Lindor and Carroll going back and forth, and I decided to go with Lindor just because I'm spending quality time with you two.
Yeah.
Let's start with a Met tonight. Let's have some fun. See where.
And by the way, are you worried that Carroll's going to be injured or have shoulder issues at all?
I don't know. I mean, it is something that's been chronic, with him before. So I understand the concern around it, but at the same time, you got to see what he did second half of last year, be very encouraged by that, and hope that it can move forward. Speaking of second, encouragement later on here, it's very tough here because I'm a big Julio guy, but I've been very frustrated with him the last couple of years. We're just unable to put a complete season together, and then Randy Rosarena finally being there, I think helps a little bit, but I'm going to go with the kid. I think I saw enough out of Jackson Chourio that I'm very excited about what he's going to do this year.
I would have taken Julio right there.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have.
Yeah.
That's what the draft wizard wanted me to do too. But you know what? I'm my own man. That's how this run goes.
All right, it's up to me here. You got Julio Rodriguez went, Duran, who I would not take that high in the second round. Yikes. Harper, Zach Wheeler, the 2 pitchers went already. Skubal went, and Skeens. I'm not taking a pitcher here. To me, it's between Freddie Freeman and Trey Turner. I haven't had a lot of Trey Turner on my teams. I think he's going to be valuable this year. Gets you the steals, gets everything. Top shortstop. I'm gonna give it a shot and see what the build looks like with Trey Turner.
Wow, and you're a Freddie Freeman guy too, which is very interesting.
I am. I mean, I could just as easily go Freddie Freeman, but I'm gonna give Turner a shot. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, now I'm up, and I see they got a couple of outfielders available, and Jackson Merrill falling all the way to 13. I think I like that a lot. He gives you stolen bases. You put him together with Shohei Ohtani. If he steals also, I think my team is almost basically set on stolen bases. Plus, looking ahead for my next pick, there are a couple third basemen who are coming up, and I think 1 or 2 of them will last to my next pick, so I think I'm going to go with Jackson Merrill here.
Not Jazz Chisholm was available. That didn't appeal?
No, I don't. I'm not a Jazz guy.
He's still available for your next pick.
He's still available for my next pick, but I'm not a Jazz guy, and he doesn't really fit the profile of my team because I have stolen bases already. And third base is always kind of shallow-ish, so I think I'm going to go with some power here and get Austin Riley, and I think I'm pretty set for my offensive categories. I got stolen bases, I got power, and I think I can maybe concentrate on pitching in my next two picks.
Well,
So I'm gonna go Austin Riley.
you have Otani. Do you guys have any reservations about him actually stealing a lot of bases? I'm a little worried.
I mean, what if it drops down to 30? We're still not excited about a guy who's going to hit, be a 40-30 player, even if there's drop off,
Well, no, he's the guy. He's the guy to take. But just in terms of his stolen, I mean, I can see 20 or 25 happening. Remember, he has a bum shoulder also, and I don't know. Do the Dodgers want him that exposed this year? I don't know.
Well, that's definitely a question to ask, but I think the Dodgers are all in right now, and they want that repeat, and I think they'll be very measured. What's going to be interesting, though, is, on the days where he does pitch, does he take more days off this year? That's something that could be interesting to think about if you're in any head-to-head formats. But again, that is such splitting hairs about players. I'd still be taking Ohtani one overall no matter what.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree 60%. I'm.
You're on the clock, Ariel.
Yeah. I'm a little
Okay.
bit thinking about taking though Bobby Witt at 2 in general. I'm noodling with that. I haven't been privy to that at all. Manny Machado is my next pick.
Nice.
Here I had to do that quickly. The corners have been pushed up quite a bit in this draft. And I did not want to draft a pitcher, so he was just the best available. So Machado for me.
I would have taken him, so I was hoping he made it back to me, but he did not. So good on you there. I mean, I think this one's pretty easy for me, to be honest with you here. I'm going to go ahead and take Albies. We were talking about the second base situation there.
I like
expect
Albies,
to bounce back from him.
Yeah.
So now I've got the situation there where I've got power and speed here, going with all three of my first three picks here. All right, I was going back and forth here. Usually I don't take a pitcher quite this early, but I really like Blake Snell this year on the Dodgers. Tons of run support, great defensive team. I mean, all the things that work out really well. I mean, he's got a shot to win 20 games with that bullpen too. It's so strong. So I might hate myself later on. I'm going to pass on, Pete Alonso here. I'm going to pass on a couple other power bats that I really like a lot. There's some good offensive players here. I feel like it's going to potentially bite me in the rear end later on. But you know what? Let's try Blake Snell. Let's give it a shot. See if I like the build.
All right. I would have considered Pete Alonso. I actually like another pitcher better, George Kirby.
George Kirby is not going to sniff as many wins as Blake Snell, Ariel.
No, definitely not.
And he's
But I
available
love
to you.
starting with those ratios.
Yeah, well, you go. You got George Kirby. He is on the board for you right
there.
now.
The only question is, do I take a closer instead? Nah, not in this mock draft. I think I'll snag somebody good later. It's George Kirby for me. I'll do some pitching. I don't like any of the hitters here, so I'm going to go with Kirby. All right. Ruvain's up.
I have a lot of offense right now. I don't have any pitchers. I don't love the starting pitchers on this level. I think I can wait a little bit longer. Closers are a little bit appealing to me here. I don't mind picking a closer here. I don't want to go catcher. I think I'm going to go closer here. And I think, okay, I'm being a homer. I like Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz gets a lot of strikeouts. He's good. Obviously, he's on a good team. Josh Hader was very good for me last year. I had him on a bunch of teams. I mean, people have Hader above Diaz, of course, but if I'm going to be a little bit weaker on pitching, I think Diaz can make up with some of those strikeouts, which is why I'm going to go with Diaz.
Not a bad selection there. Oh, somebody just doubled up and took Rooker and Ozuna. Now, they're listed as outfielders. Maybe on FantasyPros they are outfield eligible, but for most of us,
Yeah, oftentimes the FantasyPros software will take the Yahoo.
the Yahoo ones. If you're not playing on Yahoo, then their utility, they're going to go later, but great batters. So we failed to realize that. Now we realize it's Yahoo eligibility.
Which is fine. And now it's up to me again as a two of those guys went. So again, I'm still not in a position where I don't think I have to reach for pitching just yet. Shortstop, Willie Adames is out there, and he's in San Francisco. He just got to sign a new contract. Sometimes players who sign a new contract aren't that great in the start, but the shortstops do start to drop a little bit toward a level that I'm not comfortable with. So I think I'm going to go with Willie Adames here.
A little bit early for Adames, I think. All right, but sure. All right. A couple of outfielders went. Christian Walker went. All right, well, I have a corner, a middle, an outfielder. I can go with an outfielder, but I see that closers are going. You picked a closer. Williams is gone. You got Emmanuel Clase is gone. Hader is available, and Mason Miller. Anybody have any suggestions for me who they like better, Miller or Hader?
I don't think you can go wrong with either. I think the Athletics are going to be a fun team this year. I think the move out of that ballpark is going to be fun. I think the offense is going to respond very well in kind too. Look, I love the strikeout potential of Miller. He's a little younger, so maybe you want to go that route, but I don't see much of a difference between these two guys at all, statistically speaking.
All right, you talked me into Josh Hader right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Of course.
Which
Course.
is probably your
typical
pick.
Ariel Cohen right there. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna take one of your favorite guys. You know
Uh-oh.
that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna go right to one of your favorite guys. I think because I'm looking around here. I'm looking at what I'm looking for here. There's a couple. Actually, you know what? Maybe I can wait. Maybe I can wait and play the game just a little bit and
Okay.
have my cake and eat it too. I want a little bit more power. I want to go in that outfield. I really like the fact that Vladdy's playing for a contract this year. I think Bo Bichette bounces back, and Anthony Santander. Let's go take 40 bombs right here. And then on the way
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get some help at first base. Because after that, there is a bit of
I
a
know who you're
drop off.
picking. I know
Oh
who you're
yeah,
picking.
go ahead.
You're picking Naylor. You know I like
I
it.
am. I'm taking one of your
Yeah.
guys here. So Josh
I like
Naylor it
Santander
is.
and Naylor. Those would have been my two picks. So there you
Well,
go.
Ariel, I learned by watching you.
There you go.
That's
There
what
you
I
go.
learned.
All right. Well, down to Ryan Helsley's still out there. I might want to try to double up on the closers. I know that I'm passing on some offense here, but those are I don't want to be dealing with closers a lot in season. I think the combination of Hader Helsley is a great way to start. I've already got my starting pitcher ace, so I can probably wait on starting pitching a little bit. I have my big batting barrage of the first three picks. I think I'm going to go with Ryan Helsley and lock down the closers right now. I've been doing that in some drafts, and I like the builds with them.
I think I'm going to go with a starter here. I think this is the time to get it. This is ready for my first starter, and this is the end of the 6th round. And I'm looking at the starters that are out there. Logan Webb gives you a bunch of innings. I like Luis Castillo. I think if the Mariners are not in it, he may actually get traded, and his value may actually go up a little bit and traded to a contender. I like Bryce Miller also and Tanner Bybee, but I want the innings. I want the Logan Webb innings, and I had him in a couple leagues last year, and I think that's what I'm going to go with here.
Webb is so consistent too. Like I love that. I love that you can just kind of set your watch him. I didn't like that the last month of the season didn't go very well for him, but still,
Yeah.
like it's the only thing. So like that's one of those guys. Just watch him in spring because he's been so durable over the last few years. But I mean, God, you can't argue with a guy who goes out there and makes 30 starts every year.
Yeah, and he pitches deep into games, so that gets you a lot of wins as well, which wins are hard to come by.
Yes, and right after that, I think I'm going to double up on pitching here. I think that this may be the spot to do it, and then I can, bulk up on my hitting again. I think I really like Tanner Bybee. He's coming into his own. I mean, we mentioned him in the past. I think it may be a little bit early for him. Again, I'm skipping on Luis Castillo. His ADP is a little bit higher, but I do like Tanner Bybee, and because I have to wait a whole bunch of picks for someone else, I think I'm going to go starting pitcher with Tanner Bybee.
Okay, Webb and Bybee. Let's see who goes. Royce Lewis, Bailey Ober, Hunter Brown, Bo Bichette.
Ooh, I was
Okay.
hoping Brown would make it to me. I gotta say, I thought that was a lock.
Interesting.
I'm shocked here.
I could go Mark Vientos here. I do have a third baseman already, and I'm a little worried that he was so good last year that sophomore slump a little bit. If not that I wouldn't draft him. I think that if I didn't have a third baseman, I would. I'm going to lock down more of the outfielders. So to me, it's Brian Reynolds or Seiya Suzuki. I like Reynolds. Gives you a little bit of everything. Gives you good batting average. So you don't have to worry about later in the year in the draft. Give you a little bit of steals, a little bit of homers, a little bit of everything. And Brian Reynolds is now on my team.
All right, look at this. I'm excited about how this is going here. You know what? Because I already took, I don't know. I got to say here, this is where you start taking some swings. And for me, Shane McClanahan just went. McClanahan was still there. I would really strongly be considering him. The other pitchers on the board now, Schwellenbach, Peralta, Joe Ryan, Grayson Rodriguez. Those are the top lift guys right now. But I got to say, I'm going to go ahead and take another outfielder, another guy that I think is going to, bounce back and play his way out of Chicago and be on a contending team. I'm going to take a shot on Luis Robert here. I just think that it's a good value on a guy who
If
could
he stays
be a
healthy,
30-20 player.
If he stays
Well,
healthy,
if he stays healthy, at
Yes.
least early on, that's the key. Because the key is getting him the hell out of there. And I think that's something that they are motivated to do. So I'm looking for that. And then I do need a third baseman. Mark Vientos is there, and I'm not worried about a sophomore slump. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. And I don't see a scenario where he doesn't drive 100 runs in this year. So I'm going to go ahead and take Vientos here. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
Naylor, Albies, Lindor, Vientos is the infield, the outfield, Churio, Santander, and Robert. I've only got one pitcher, though, Blake Snell, so I'm going to have to make up some ground there.
Yeah, same here. And that's a good point that even if he doesn't hit as many bombs as he did, he's going to be in a good lineup, but that's going to give him a lot of runs and RBIs. And where does Vientos bat on the Mets? I think he's going to bat. I mean, he should bat third after Soto before Alonso, to me.
I think they're going to try Alonso 3 first, but I'm with you. I would rather have him hitting third there, Alonso probably hitting fifth behind Nimmo in the 4 spot, kind of break up the righties and lefties. Personally, that's what I would do. But we'll see. We'll see as the time goes on there.
Well, I mentioned I might take Seiya Suzuki last time. It's been a full round. And by the way, here's one of the advantages of picking in the middle, right? I don't have to take a gamble on 30 picks. I can pick. Seiya Suzuki came back to me, right? I got my value, and then I got my value again. See, I love drafting somewhere in the middle, and now I get Brian Reynolds and Seiya Suzuki. I've got a great outfield now with Kyle Tucker.
That's very interesting because it brings it back to me. I just picked 2 pitchers. If Suzuki would have left stayed to me, I would have gone after him. I'm looking around. I have a third baseman. I don't have a first baseman. I think I have one outfielder. Let me just check here. I have no outfield. I have one outfielder, so I'm pretty set in a lot of positions. You mentioned second base coming up a lot very early. I'm not thrilled with the second baseman here. I'm a little torn as to what to do exactly here. Okay. I'm gonna go with a guy with some more power. We were talking about him before, Cody Bellinger. He should be eligible in the first base and outfield. Gives me a little more flexibility, gives me more power, and you can never have enough power, I think.
All righty, Cody Bellinger, new Yankee. Who else?
Yes.
And versatile too. Could play him at first base if you need to, or the corner spot.
Yes,
that's useful.
That's it. Give me
I
a
like
little
him in
bit
this
of
ballpark
flexibility
too.
there.
I'm with you. I think that's a good pick there.
But now the next question is, because I can slot him in the outfield, I can really go anywhere with this next pick. I think I'm gonna reach. I know this is a reach. This is a little bit of a reach, but I think this is okay to reach here. I'm looking at the catchers. A couple of catchers are gone. Will Smith is there. I'm a little comfortable. I'm comfortable drafting him here in the 9th round. I don't think I'm overdoing it too much, especially because I don't think he would last if it comes back to me. So, this is why I don't like drafting in the front or on the turns, because you do have to reach a little bit for players and for positioning. So I'm actually gonna jump some guys and take Will Smith here.
One of the teams here took 3 catchers. They have Salvador
Was one
Perez.
of them Sal Perez? Maybe they play him at first base.
I guess they'll
base,
have to. Perez,
That's why,
Rutschman at Raleigh. But of course, if you're picking Salvador Perez at first, then his value is like $5 less. Very
Agreed.
silly.
Yeah.
I can either go catcher. I would probably go Shea Langoliers if I did. There's also Vinny P, who's been on the Beat the Shift podcast. Actually, our 100th episode, we had Vinny Pasquantino. Go him or catcher. Catchers are running thin, and I don't want Team 13 to take a 4th catcher. It's a good spot. Shea Langoliers provides a lot of power. I drafted a lot of steals with Trey Turner, and I've drafted batting average with Reynolds and Suzuki. I think Shea Langoliers really complements my team, and we need 2 catchers, so you do have to draft him. It's already the 10th round or so? 8th round?
9th round.
9th round, at the time. Shea Langoliers is a fine pick right here.
All right, so Langoliers to you. I'm going to go ahead and take a pitcher that I'm very enamored of. We've had him on our show, so you look at that. We can have people on our show too, Ariel.
Yeah, there you
guys
go.
Don't just hang out with you once in a while. Justin Steele. He's a fantasy football fanatic.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of his. I love the Cubs this year. I think the Cubs are pushing all in to make a run at this division. I think they smell blood in the water, and I agree. I definitely need some more pitching help here too. Going through here, and I was wondering if potentially Strider would make it back to me, because I think that's where I start to feel comfortable. Like if I get Strider as my 3rd guy, I'm like, all right, can I coast through a month and maybe get him up to speed? If not, then I'm just gonna I'm searching out for wins. I'm searching out for strikeouts. Team that's gonna be solid in the bullpen. It's the Yankees, so I'm gonna go with Carlos Rodon here.
Yeah, I've got a lot of Justin Steele in my draft so far. I think he's
Love
a great
Steele.
value.
I think he's so underappreciated, Ariel. Like, if you go look at the game logs, you look at what he's done. I know he's missed some time here and there, but if you're looking at the
For
consistency
hamstring,
and the productivity,
For
right,
hamstring.
it's never arm stuff, right?
not an arm
Exactly.
issue.
So you just
Right.
figure, okay, just try to, if he has one clean 32 start season with that Cubs team, especially with Tucker there, he could be a really good.
And he's
start
not a
this year.
fireballer, so you're not worried about a Tommy John as much with
Right,
with
he's not
that
trying
type
to
of
throw a
pitcher.
ball through a wall.
Right,
exactly.
He's what Ruven calls sneaky good.
Yes,
He is sneaky good. He really is.
Yes.
All right, I mentioned the second baseman, and I have not had this guy drafted, but it's the time for him. Luis Garcia Jr. of Washington provides a lot of steals, a lot of power, a little bit of everything. I'm doing middle with everything. I'm going to lock in my second baseman right now. I know I'm a little bit light on pitching now. I don't see any guys I love. I don't. I guess I can go with like a Jared Jones, take a chance, but I'm going to go Luis Garcia, and I've got a great
Love
offense,
it.
so.
Love Luis Garcia. I've been talking about him so much on the show.
Oh, yeah.
People are sick of it already, and it's not even March. Because I keep saying the same thing. It's like you can get 75 picks later, pretty much the same statistical player that Jose Altuve is now. And why would you take Altuve when you can go wait for Garcia? And the Nats are another one, too, that's one of my sneaky teams this year that, there might be some ups and downs because there's a lot of youth. But, man, that's a very intriguing team with that talent.
And they're going to steal a lot. By the way, Bryce Terang just went. I find he's going really early. I know he's got a lot of steals, but
He is. Yeah,
I think it's too early for him. And because he's going early, it just means that second basemen are more valuable to take. If you get him at a good value spot, go for him.
Yes, and he gives you the stolen bases. So I have that already. I have that. I have a little bit of that profile. So I'm looking who's out there. I mean, not. No, just like you said, Ari, the pitchers are not thrilling to me right now. But I am thinking of taking a closer on the way back to get to double up on closing. So I'm going to take Brandon Nimmo. He's
Nice.
again being a homer. He gets on base. He's going to bat in the middle of that lineup. I think that's the way to go there. And I don't think I'm losing much value getting him where I'm getting him. And now it's up to me again as Arenado and Nico Horner went. Now I mentioned about closers. I have a closer already. I have Edwin Diaz. I want to get a guy who has the job. I think that's the most important thing, to have a guy who has the job. I'm looking at. I don't love Alexis Diaz. I really don't. David Bednar, I'm a little nervous about. Kirby Yates, a little old. Jordan Romano. I mean, a lot of these guys have a lot of question marks. But I guess I'm going to go with Alexis Diaz only because I know he has the job. And if I wait any longer, I don't think any of the top tier closers. Pete Fairbanks is out there also, but he gets hurt coming out to the mound. So I think I'm going to go with Alexis Diaz.
I'm not a fan of Alexis Diaz. I think he can actually lose the job pretty quickly in Cincinnati and be done. I don't think he's the bank at closer. I think he's the first guy up, but I don't think he has a strong. I'm not into him this year.
Well, now I have the Diaz brothers, so we'll see.
There you go. I love the Nimmo pick too. That's another guy that I've been defending a lot to the Welsh on the show, where I just said, he's a very strong player. I know last year the batting average dipped a little bit, but he's been talking about this offseason working on fixing some bad adjustments, he called them, that he made last year. And you saw the power spike, and once again in the middle of a lineup where you've got Juan Soto's 400 plus on base percentage just dropped in there at the top of it. I mean, That's just a tremendous spot for him to be in. He's a good player.
Question is if he's going to trade runs for RBIs. He might be trading that this year because he's been a great runs guy. But value is value. I like Nimmo, the player. Again, another reason why you'd want to draft in the middle. Remember I mentioned who I might take? I need a pitcher, Jared Jones. Guess who's available? Another guy that I just waited for, and I got my cake, and I ate it later. So Jared Jones, exciting young guy. He's my second pitcher. I wish I had a little bit better starting pitching, but remember I got that lockdown closers with Hader and Helsley.
Well, you can't have everything, Ariel.
No, you can't have everything in a
You
draft.
could try. You could
try, but just it's not going to happen. Not when you're in a room like this, that's for sure. I was going to take Jones. That's certainly a guy that I was strongly considering here. So now it's a matter of, do I want to go back to the pitching well here and grab another starter? Very intrigued by Brian Wu, but I think I'm going to go and I'm going to trade some more stolen bases. It's funny. This is a player that I'm polarized myself on, but considering our 5x5 here that we're sitting in here and the stolen base potential of this player, I think it's really interesting to take Pete Crow Armstrong here and see, can he give me 30 steals? And
Are you
can
concerned
he build
about his
on what he
batting
saw
average?
last year?
You concerned about his batting average?
I am concerned with the batting average. I will kid you not. But at the same time, I think I'm going to take some shots here. And the guy that I wanted to make it back to me, a pitcher did, and it's Sandy Alcantara. So I'm going to go ahead and snag him here too, because Alcantara, to me, If he is 100% healthy here, they've already been named him the opening day starter, which I thought was a little surprising, to tell you the truth. Another guy that if he gets out of the gate strong, could be headed to a contender. A guy just recently removed from, 2 back-to-back incredibly productive seasons, Cy Young candidate kind of seasons. So as my 4th starting pitcher, I feel pretty good about that.
Okay, so I was going to take Logan O'Hoppe if he came to me. I was considering him last time. There's a very big drop in catching. So Francisco Alvarez is available as a second catcher. Then it goes to Austin Wells, Moreno, Sean Murphy or so. I'm just reading some ECR numbers. It's a big drop. And I like taking players during a draft where I see if I don't take him, oh my God, it's going down. Other positions, there's good players, but there's, I can pick this guy instead and it's, something. So the drop in value is a big deal for me. I'm going to lock down my second catcher, Francisco Alvarez. And he's going to have a great year, by the way. The Mets could have potentially, and tell me if you guys like this, they might have 5 players with 30 homers.
It's very possible.
Yeah, Vientos, Alvarez, Lindor,
Very, very
Alonso, and Soto. Very possible.
I feel like people forget that, Alvarez was a bat guy.
He had 25 homers 2 years ago.
I know, but the people sort of just have short-term memories, I think, sometimes with some of these things.
And he hurt his hand last year, right?
He did, and I think it was a lot of pressure handling the pitching staff and, those big pressurized games down the stretch. And, and as a catcher, your first thing is to handle those guys. And as a young catcher, I think that's a lot to put on a kid. We've seen, a lot of young catchers crack under those circumstances, or sometimes the offense drag. I'm with you. I think he bounces back this year. I don't expect a 280 hitter, but can he give me, 250 and 25, 30 home runs? I think he can.
Ruben, you got 5 seconds left here.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, I'm gonna go with Bryson Stott here because you guys scared me a little bit with stolen bases and Ohtani, and according to FantasyPros, he's eligible at second and short, so I'm filling in my middle infield need. I was thinking about Gleyber Torres, not thrilled with it, so I think they're almost the same.
A lot of steals with Stott.
So I'm going to get a bunch of steals. I have my power ready. So I think it's maybe time to get another starting pitcher. The question is, who do I want? Now, there are some pitchers out there that are a little bit interesting. Zach Eflin is always interesting to me. To me, it's between either, at this point, Zach Eflin or Christopher Sanchez. Christopher Sanchez is learning a new pitch this year. That's what I heard. I think he's learning trying to throw the cutter, which is interesting. But I like Zach Eflin better. I think it's consistency. He's on a good team. He's on Baltimore. The stadium is it's not a negative really that much. So I'm gonna go with Zach Eflin here. I'm gonna jump a little bit and take him.
All right. There's other pitchers too. Reynaldo Lopez was one I was considering for a while.
I'm a little nervous about him. That's why I skipped him.
So Christopher Sanchez is still there. I like the Phillies team. I like what he did last year. Starting pitching is going very quickly in this draft. There's going to be a big drop later on. So by my intuition from last time where I said, take Alvarez because there's going to be a big drop, I think the same thing with starting pitching. Christopher Sanchez, to me, gets me a good floor. I'm going with the Philly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that pick a lot. All right, looking here at my board, top suggestions, it says Lane Thomas, Jimenez, Dansby Swanson would be a big boost, it says, but I think I can find some other guys a little bit later. And I'm behind a batting average right now. I'm looking at the categories. I'm crushing steals, homers, RBI. I'm crushing life there. Batting average, I'm last, so I've got to figure something out. I also have to figure out saves, so I'm going to go ahead and try to figure out some of those. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take Kirby Yates because he's the closer on the Dodgers, and that's good enough for me.
You don't think it's Tanner Scott?
I don't. I think it's going to be Yates.
How much money is Tanner Scott being paid versus Yates?
I go back to the lefty thing, too. Well, you got to realize, too, it's when they came in, and then also you've got to understand, they're paying a lot for Yates via the luxury tax because he was later. So, it was more like, hey, do you want to be here? Do you want this job? I'm just saying, yeah. All right. I'm going to also, Fairbanks, Rue over there made me a little nervous about Fairbanks, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So instead I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go with Jordan Romano as my other closer, too, because I do think he's got that job.
Joe, would you do a board bet with me? Who gets more saves on the Dodgers this year? Is it going to be Yates versus Scott? I will take
No, because I'm not that confident in it. But
a dollar bet?
A dollar bet? Yeah, sure. Last time you and I had a bet, you had to buy me a giant Jose Altuve Game of Thrones bobblehead. And it's sitting here right next to me as you speak. So are you sure you want to bet with me again? Like, that's a dangerous game for you, my friend.
Dollar bet.
Dollar bet, sure.
Okay.
I'll go Kirby.
That's
Answer
our
with
$3 board bet
What's
of
your
the
Venmo?
year. I'm going
All
to make
right.
$3 this year. Okay, now you mentioned, I like how you mentioned that you need to do something about batting average. I'm going to do the same thing, and I need a first baseman. He's playing in George Steinbrenner Park. Yandy Diaz, I think you're going to get some more power than you think, actually, out of him. He's going to return, not to what he did a couple years ago, but better than last year. Yandy Diaz is going to get on-base, score runs. Yandy Diaz, my guy.
That's very interesting. Now, a guy we mentioned, Yandy Diaz I was thinking about that because I do need a corner. I only have two outfielders, and I'm a little bit nervous because outfield does get shallow pretty quick. I could go with Lane Thomas, but I'm a little nervous about him. He didn't play well when he went to Cleveland. He's going to steal bases. He's going to try to hit for power. What is he going to do? Tyler O'Neill in Baltimore. I mean, same with injury issues. I'm a little bit nervous about him. Helio Ramos is interesting. I picked him up last year, and I got a lot of mileage out of him. But I think I don't like jumping like this, but that's why I don't like picking second. But
You can't complain. You got Ohtani second. You can't make complaints like
Yeah,
this.
don't complain.
Okay.
Don't complain.
So
And look, it's 5 active outfielders in a 14-team
yes.
league.
So I'm
it
gonna
does
take
dry up.
Lourdes Gurriel because I think he's gonna back
Excellent.
in that lineup.
Right out of my cue.
So,
Well done.
So I think that's
Love him.
perfect for me. Now it comes back to me. Keeper Reeves was taken. Brandon Pfaadt. Now Keeper Reeves reminds me that I only have one catcher, and catchers do get shallow pretty quick. Austin Wells is out there. Gabriel Manos, Sean Murphy. I don't really love any of them. I think I may want to wait, but if I wait, it's going to be pretty slim pickings. But I think I'm going to wait on that. Starting pitching, there are some guys that are out there that are interesting. Taj Bradley is interesting. I don't love Shane Baz. Eovaldi's out there, but he's getting older, so I'm not really thrilled with that also. So I'm kind of stuck here. So I think I'm going to go with another first baseman because first base do get shallow. And I think the first baseman I'm going to go with here is Ryan Mountcastle. I've had him on teams before. I've been very comfortable with him. Is he going to platoon? I don't know, but he does give me power and a little bit of the average isn't going to kill me. So
Okay. All right, up to me here. Well, I'm eyeing a certain outfielder, but I'm going to play the waiting game because I can in the middle, and let's see if we get him. Starting pitching, Ryan Pepiot, very interesting. I have not had a lot of his share. I have him going, actually, he's going later than I think he should have. I'm going to take a chance on the Ray Pepiot.
All right, there you have it. All right, looking here for me, definitely a couple of ways I could go on this one here. Suggestions right now, let's probably go back to starting pitching, which feels about right to me. Pavetta's on the board. Also, Nate Eovaldi's on the board too. It's funny because Eovaldi, last year again, 166 strikeouts, 3.80 ERA, 1.11 WHIP. I mean, I know year before pretty good, only 144 innings. You always worry about innings with him, but I think at this stage of the game, I think was he my fifth guy? I can live with him as my fifth starter, so I'm going to go ahead and take him.
I think I'm actually on the clock in a live draft, and Eovaldi is out there in like the 20th round or something like that. So I'm probably going to end up with him. I like the pick. My outfielder that I waited for is still there. I know Ruvain's very high on him.
It's not your pick. It's still my pick.
Oh.
So,
want
to
sorry.
skip me.
Ooh, sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe
you
not.
invite me on the show, and then you move me down the draft, and you steal my picks. What kind of host are you?
Let's see if you can snipe him then. Let's go.
Well, this is, again, a little tricky here, too. Can I get some more steals and batting average? I want to go with another starting pitcher. I am very intrigued by Francis, so I'm going to go ahead and draft another starting pitcher here and build that depth out. McCarthy's tempting here, but I'm going to take Bowden Francis instead.
You've picked 5 pitchers in a row, by the way.
Well, I didn't pick a lot of pitchers to begin with, so I'm in a spot here. I like my offense. I mean, Churio, Santander, Robert, Vientos, Albies, Naylor, Lindor. I mean, I feel pretty decent about the offense. With the pitching, if you're not going to have elite, you better be deep.
Yeah, and my guy actually still lasted. George Springer.
Okay.
What year is it?
I knew Ruvain would have picked him next, but he just gets you. Everything's going to lead off. If he stays healthy, we're talking a ton of runs. Batting average is okay-ish. He actually steals some also. And some good power. Toronto's going to have a good lineup. George Springer, and that's my 4th outfielder. Not too shabby.
Yeah, I was staring at him, hoping he would last, but then I remembered I'm drafting with you, and we know who each other like, and that's the problem. So, yeah.
Well, you got my Gurriel, by the way.
I know. I'm aware of that because you were thinking about getting him in one of your other leagues also. So I knew you're going to go for him. So it does help knowing what people are going to want and and who's going to last. That does help. I think I'm going to go another outfield here. I'm not. I have three starters already. I have Webb, I have Bybee, and I have Eflin. I think I can wait a little bit longer for a starting pitcher. Catchers, it's getting to the point where they're just sitting out there, and I'm not really all concerned about getting a lower one. So I think I'm going to go with Cedric Mullins the third. He still can give you stolen bases, and he still will bat in a decent spot in the lineup. And it comes back to me, and there you go. That's exactly, well, maybe that's why I did that, because I just wanted to hear that. But now I think it is time to pick another closer, possibly. I think the closers are going to go off the board a little bit quicker. Wondering who to pick here, and there's really no one that I love except the team that's going to be in a lot of close games this year. I don't love him as a pitcher. He was okay at the end of last year. Is Justin Martinez. He got the closer's job there. He is in a battle, I guess, for the position, but I do like him. He pitched very well down the stretch for them. I picked him up in a bunch of leagues last year, and he's going to be on a decent team. I mean, they have good pitching. They're specifically trying to get good pitching, so I think they're going to be in a lot of close games. So if he doesn't even get me saves, he can get me some wins. So I'm going to go with Justin Martinez here.
Okay. There's a bunch of corners available, which means that I'm going to wait on corner, right? If there's a whole bunch, then I'll get whoever comes next time. I debating between an upside pitcher here or a guy that gives me one category. I'm gonna go with Jake McCarthy, who I think is going to have a lot of steals, good, decent batting average, on a good team. And that's going to give me as a fifth outfielder to provide me that much speed this late in the draft. I love it.
That was the guy I was going to take. In fact, I was taking the last one. So
sorry,
you sniped me on that. That's okay. We're still friends. All right, next one here. Lee is interesting too. I'm trying to boost the batting average. He's still floating around there, Jung-Hoo Lee. So I think that is one that's intriguing to me. Some of the projections. How does ATC like Jung-Hoo Lee?
It's tough for him because we didn't really get enough of a sample size last year. Jung-Hoo Lee actually ATC does like a small bargain for like a $2.50 bargain. 9 homers, 8 steals, but 281 batting average. I tend to believe and not believe that because I don't know how much of that is really affected by the little he did last year where he did show a 92% contact rate, which is incredible. He definitely has a low floor, a very high floor and batting average for him. So you're going to get that. Can he go to double-digit homers and steals? I don't know. I think he's a good pick where you are right now. So if you want to solve batting average, that's a one-stop shop fix to do it.
Yeah, it's good. It was good. I wanted you to filibuster a little bit too while I thought about my next pick, but that was very good.
Yeah.
It's funny because Nathaniel Lowe's there, who I think is just fine, but not exciting. And I don't know if he really helps anything that I'm trying to do here. Suarez is still out there, too, a starting pitcher that I like on the Phillies. J.J. Bleday had a pretty nice season last year. 20 homers, only 2 steals. Again, kind of kills me in the batting average. I'm going to take the batting average boost, and I am actually going to take Jung-Hoo Lee here because I actually snuck in another pick while you were talking. So I snuck in another selection in there. So at the same time, so I ended up... where did I go there for that one? So I took
Tyler Fitzgerald.
Tyler Fitzgerald is who I took in between the two. Another guy that helps the batting average a little bit. So as I'm looking on the categories right now, I am no longer in the cellar here on FantasyPros draft software. Draft Wizard now has moved me up there, so I am no longer the bottom dweller in average. So that certainly helps. And that's what's great, too. The software shows you where you are in the categories projection-wise as you're drafting. So if you need something, you can see where you might have to target next.
Is a Jung-Hoo Lee like a Luis Arias light, potentially, that you can
Maybe
get many rounds later?
More power than him. I think he's got more power than him.
Anybody has more power. I've got more power than him.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah. I agree. So if you're getting maybe a 290 hitter, let's say, and potentially a guy who's going to hit, even just 10 home runs for you, if you need a batting average boost late, I think that's a nice way to do it.
All right, I'm going for an upside pitcher. I've already drafted one upside pitcher with Jared Jones. I usually don't go young, but I'm going to go Nick Lodolo. He's shown great stuff in the second half last year. If that continues, this is a great pick very late, and I need a pitcher, so Nick Lodolo.
Yep, and that's where I'm going toward also. I was thinking about Nick Lodolo, but I'm always concerned about his ERA. He had a freak. He had like the stress reaction in his leg last year, and Lodolo since or a couple of years ago, and since then he hasn't been really himself. So he's a little bit of an injury risk. But which is the other two starting pitchers I see that are out there right now, Yu Darvish and Ranger Suarez. But I had Ranger Suarez, and he pitched very well for half a year. If I can get another half a year out of him like he did for the first half, that's great. So I'm going to go with Ranger Suarez here.
Okay.
Okay, comes right back to me. Yu Darvish is still there. That's tempting, but I don't know how many innings he's going to pitch. I'm a little bit concerned about that, so I'm not thrilled with that. I'm looking. I think I'm going to take my second catcher here. I mean, I have most of the positions filled out on my roster already. I only need a second catcher, a middle infielder, an outfielder. The rest are pitchers. I don't want to wait so much longer for catcher. Ryan has always been a darling of ATC. Not so much this year, but he does play DH a little bit. So I think I'm going to go with Ryan Jeffers here, only because I think he's going to get more at bats than probably other catchers out there.
I already solved my catcher situation before. And look at this. All of the first basemen and corners that I was waiting for, they were all there. Here's an ATC gem, Ryan McMahon. I don't think he was 100% right last year, and even so, he still had like 20 homers. Every year is 20 homers. Every year is 20 homers. He plays in Colorado, man. I'm going with Ryan McMahon. He has the lowest volatility, by the way, of almost any player, meaning every projection system knows what he's going to do. Everybody knows what McMahon's going to do.
All right, I will be boring here, and I will take Nathaniel Lowe now. At this stage of the game, I feel pretty good about that. Looking around, maybe you want to potentially take another shot at another starting pitcher. Now, here's the interesting ones. You got the roll the dice guys. You got the roll the dice of Springs, roll the dice of Luzardo, roll the dice on Walker Buehler. I'm really intrigued. The last two starts in the postseason of Walker Buehler looked really good. Like the ball was moving a lot more. Boston, I think, is going to be a pretty good lineup. Luzardo, not that far removed from a really good fantasy season just 2 years ago where he struck out nearly 200 guys. Again, health always an issue with him, and same thing with Springs working his way back last year too. So that's a tough one. I'm going to go with the guy that I think is just on the best team potentially here, and I'm going to go with Luzardo and take a shot on Sim, see what it goes.
All right, comes back to me. I could use a pitcher. So he's actually listed in here under relief pitcher, but he's going to be a starting pitcher, Clay Holmes.
Like it. He was in my queue.
Yeah, he's got some great stuff going on. Spring training looks good so far. We had Nick Pollock thinks he can actually get and pitch a nice, good 150, 160 innings. Let's take a shot on Clay Holmes.
I liken him to Derek Lowe with more strikeouts. Does that make sense? Is that a good comp for you? Like this transition, because the guy keeps the ball down back in the day.
And we've seen the biggest jumps from relief pitchers turning starters.
Sure, Lugo. Yeah.
Lugo did that last year. The guy on the Braves. And
2 years ago he did it with the Padres, and then last year was the full season. But Lugo is one of my favorite guys last year.
Ronaldo Lopez.
Yeah. Ronaldo Lopez was
Spencer Strider did it one year, right? Chris Sale did that way back, right?
Yes, yeah, but those guys were earmarked. We're talking about the guys that were not necessarily earmarked to be good starting pitchers who ended up becoming good ones. And Seth Lugo certainly been one of them. And you're right, Lopez another one too.
And the Mets should have let him start, right? They should have let him start.
Mets don't do a lot of things right historically.
Not until this year, right?
Yes.
Let's hope.
And
let's hope. They've got all the good vibes.
And my clock was ticking away in my ear as I'm listening to this, and I quickly picked another starting pitcher. I took Nasty Nestor. I think he's going to have a very good season in Milwaukee. I think getting away from the Yankees' philosophy will help him a lot. I think the Yankees' philosophy, sometimes they try to push things on pitchers that they're not really ready for or something like that. So I'm going to go with that. And I still need a middle infielder and an outfielder. I love J.J. Bleday. You mentioned Bleday, and I'm nervous about his batting average, but they're playing in a minor league ballpark, and I think that will help him a lot, and that's going to help with my power. It's going to kill my average. I understand that, but the amount of home runs I'm going to get with him, I think he's worth the killing of the average, because I can maybe pick up the average, on the waiver wire, for, pick up a hot player or something.
By the way, have you guys noticed how thin the middle infield has gotten in this draft?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Middle infield is being pushed up. If you don't get your guy,
offense early, starting pitcher, you can take shots on later on. But I'm telling you, that if you don't hit that offense early, if you don't have a plan, It gets real dried up real quick all the way around.
Yeah, I want to pick somebody in the middle infield, but they just all stink right now. I'm like, do I really have to pick these guys? But you do.
Well, you got to take somebody.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with an upside pick for not my outfielder, but my utility player, Matt Wallner. I think he's got 30 homer power. He's amazing against right-handers. Can't solve left-handers. If he ever does, he'd be great. We've got a board bet already with Cardi on Wallner, so I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is for the dollar.
All right. Well, biggest boost here as a DH for me, and I'm gonna go ahead and take Jock Peterson here, another bat. So now I can go ahead and figure out what else I need. Well, clearly I need a catcher because I don't have one. So I'll go ahead and take Joey Bart here and see how that goes. But I am somebody who waits on catcher. It's just, it's not where I like to live. I don't go early in the catcher because I feel like it just kind of hurts me later on. So, and it might, hurt me in long term, but still, the two catcher leagues, God, I hate them, guys. Why do we keep doing this to ourselves, the two catcher league? It's the
Yeah,
worst.
I'm with you. I think that especially in deeper leagues, maybe in like a 10-team league, 12-team league max.
Sure, 10-teamer, absolutely,
Yes.
I get it. You want to use the pool, totally. Yeah. But once you go over 12 teams, two catchers is kind of like, why? Why do we hate life?
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
All right, well, I do have to solve this middle infield issue, and they're really crap, but who should I go with? I'm going to take a chance on another new guy. He's coming to the Dodgers, and he'll probably get 2/3 of the starts. He does qualify at second and short, which is helpful with your season. So let's try Hai-Sung Kim. Let's give it a shot.
Okay, that's interesting. I need a middle infielder also, and it's just so it makes me. Most of these guys you see on the waiver wire during the course of the season, I'm not thrilled with any of them whatsoever. So I'm, maybe I'm just better off getting a better player overall. Joey Ortiz is there, I guess. Because he's also a shortstop, third base, so he can fill in a little bit. But I don't love that pick. Third base is getting very, very, very shallow, and we knew that would happen. Outfield. I'm gonna no thank you either. Starting pitchers, there are some intriguing ones there, but I'm not overly thrilled with any of them. I usually don't do I do usually this. I usually pick a middle reliever, and I think Jason Adam is one of the best middle relievers, and his value is going to be there. Especially if the Padres decide to trade off some of their other guys, you never know. And it comes back to me, and gosh, those middle infielders are still there. Oh God. All right, very nice. I don't know who I'm going to pick for middle infield, and I'm very confused. It's just because literally all these guys I see on the waiver wire every single year, and I just don't. This is RL. This is why the second basemen are being pushed up. There's no other reason, nothing behind it. There's one guy I'm looking at for second base and a middle infield that I probably can wait a little bit longer, so I'm not going to go after them yet. But I'm looking also now for people who have multiple position eligibility. I think that's very important. Jeff McNeil. He's second base, outfield eligible. He fills the middle infield part, but he helps me with the outfield. It's a little bit early for him, but I think because of my middle infield issue, because of his flexibility, maybe I can reach for someone else later.
I hope he does well for the Mets, but he's the one spot that I'm worried about. That I think like Luis Angel Acuna is going to take over. At some point.
I agree. I agree, but he can win a batting title hypothetically.
He can. He's done it before. All right, I need a pitcher, and the top pitcher on the board for me, who I've been looking at for the last round or so, Brian Bayo. How's it pronounced? Brian Bayo?
Brian Bayo.
Brian Bayo.
Yeah,
we're going to go with Brian Bayo here. Give me some solid innings for an undervalued Red Sox team, actually. Whoa, 4 catchers went in a row.
Oh, well, I guess I'll be looking for another catcher somewhere else. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Christian Campbell. Because I think he's going to be up there sooner than later. I would not be shocked too. We had Jeff Ponce on our show a couple weeks ago from Baseball America, and he said, even with the Bregman signing, he's like, look, don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if he doesn't, and you see Bregman taking balls at third base. You see Devers working privately, with the infield coach. Who knows how that shoulder is and how he's feeling right now. So I'm going to take Christian Campbell and just continue to build assets here.
Good spot here. It's late in the game, take a shot.
Late in the game, again, that was when Jeff says this is the guy who's going to get fastest to the major leagues, I'm going to listen. That guy knows what he's talking about. And then I'm going to take a Mets reclamation project pitcher from last year that was pretty pretty darn good in Luis Severino. And I think that A's team is going to just be, again, far more competitive than people realize. I think they're going to have a lot of people in the ballpark because it's going to be novelty for a couple years. And I think the offense is going to produce in that ballpark. It's a PCL park. Could be a little tough on the pitcher sometimes, but I really like what I saw out of Severino last year, and I really like the competitive nature that he showed. So I think that, this could be a good situation for him this year. Again, as a bench pitcher, I think he could do a lot worse.
Okay. I've got 3 picks left. We've pretty much got everything. I need a pitcher. I'm going to take a shot on a third potential closer. I don't know if he's going to get the job. It's gonna sort of hurt Ruvain here because he already has Justin Martinez, but I'm gonna try AJ Puck.
Interesting.
Probably something that if it came to you probably should have taken to get the handcuff.
Yeah, but I already have 3 closers, so I'm not overly and a relief pitcher. So I don't think I was going to go after him. I like my side better just a little bit, so I'm not overly concerned that you took that. Now I have all my positions are filled. I'm just looking for bench guys and bench guys. I have to look and see what my weakest areas are. I like my outfield; they're pretty solid. Middle infield is good. I got some power, some stolen bases with Stott and Adames. I'm just looking probably at the best guy and the guy who probably give me the most value. How is Max Scherzer still pitching, and how did he get that money? He's out there. I'm not thrilled with that. Nothing here really thrills me that much. Gosh, this is where you try. By the way, this is where leagues are won because these are the guys on your bench. I'm going to go with Heimer Candelario. He's eligible first, third. He's usually very dependable, and you never know who's going to get hurt on the Reds next. So he gives me some flexibility. It comes back to me here, and I think for my. I'm sorry.
Jacob Young. If you need steals late, Jacob Young's the guy. And by the way, if you need average, Jacob Wilson of the Athletics.
Yes, I was thinking about those two. I was thinking about Jacob Young, but I think they have him batting 9th, and if they keep that, for a stolen base guy, that's not the best. So now I'm looking and I'm thinking I need one. I think one more pitcher. One more pitcher would be perfect for me. I don't love any of the starting pitchers. I'm probably better off going after another possible closer. And yeah, the Marlins are going to be really bad, really, really bad. But Calvin Fauché is most probably the closer. And having 4 closers on a team can make up for some warts if you don't want to play some starting pitchers. So I'm going to go with Calvin Fauché for a 4th closer for my team.
All right, I'm going to be hoping that Giancarlo Stanton comes back to me. I waited and waited and waited. And, again, you're playing the middle. You never know. He can come back and guess who's there. And he's outfield eligible on Yahoo here. So Giancarlo Stanton, 25th round power, Giancarlo Stanton. I'll take that.
Man, Stanton and George Springer. What could go wrong for you?
Nothing. Just ask the Yankees. They made it to the World Series last year.
Yeah. Just sorry, I couldn't resist that one. All right. Again, it's kind of tough here. Just not a lot out there. Like the catching run absolutely just murdered me. The bots just absolutely destroyed me in that one. So instead, I'm going to pivot away from all that. I mean, God, Scherzer. Do I want to do that? I mean, he's 40. Verlander's 42. It's not a lot to like around these parts right now at this stage in the draft. It's a deeper spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another pitcher. Ryan Weathers, Marlins, they stink, but I think he'll be all right. And I'm not going to draft on the catcher because that's just ridiculous because they all stink and there's nobody worth drafting. So I'm going to hold myself accountable. And to Ariel's point, he said something earlier that I think is provocative. I think it's going to be way sooner maybe than most people. This guy had a great AFL. He had a nice little cup of coffee with this team last year. I think he is a very exciting young player, and I think he's going to take over that second base job sooner than later because Jeff McNeil at this stage in his career is more of a platoon guy, I think, or more of a bench kind of utility guy, just kind of throw out there a couple days a week. Give me Luis Angel Acuna, and I'm going to just, again, draft talent. So, although I might go a little dynasty here, Christian Campbell and Acuna.
Yeah.
Again, it's February. I'm thinking about June. I'm thinking about July and what these teams are going to look like, and I think they're going to look a lot more like those guys playing.
Yep, I would have considered him for my pick, but you took him. I'm going to go with a guy who's actually slotted to bat third. For the Tigers, he batted third in the playoffs for them. Matt Vierling, eligible third base and outfield, good batting average. He is undervalued, especially in deeper leagues. I got him with the last pick of the draft for me.
He was going to be my pick if you didn't go for him. But now,
Final pick.
It's a final pick. My middle infield is not that great. I don't love it at all. I mean, my middle infielder. I got Jeff McNeil, and after hearing all that, I'm a little bit concerned. There's a guy out there who's eligible at second and short. He stole a bunch of bases last year, and Trevor Story will not play the entire year.
No?
I don't think so.
Shocker.
I think I'm going to go. Yeah, well, when was the last time he played an entire year? It had to have been about
Never?
4 or 5 years ago. I have to look that up. But David Hamilton, he gives you stolen bases. He has some upside. He's not one of the older guys still left on the board, and he's eligible in both middle infield positions. So if I have any problems, I can just throw him in there.
Does Christian Campbell affect Hamilton?
That's a good question.
Oh, in my opinion, yes. I mean, yeah.
I think so.
Yes, but it depends how quickly they want to bring him up. That's what it is.
Yeah, I don't think there's much for him to prove. He's got that Mookie Betts quality where it's just like a great athlete, And look, Draft Wizard hated my draft because I went so young with those guys, and I figured it was going to kill me. But look at you, the winner of the draft here, number 1, is on the podcast, folks.
It's not me.
No, it's not you, Ariel Cohen.
No, I
You're
did
number
terrible
5.
according to this. It's MLB Injury Guru with an Otani gift.
The Otani, yes. I mean, they think my pitchers aren't that great, but everything else, I think they like my starters. I think they like my bench, which is great. So whatever. I don't have the many upside guys. I have a lot of boring guys. I don't have any of those rookies that was taken by other people. But it is what it is. And if I had to run with this team, I don't think I would win. But you never know.
Yep. It liked my Stanton and Veerling. It did, but it didn't like my Clay Holmes or Hai-Sung Kim. Okay. What about you, Joe? What does Fantasy Pros say?
Well, it says that Scott White from CBS likes my draft, and I think that guy's pretty bright.
He likes
last
mine
time I
too.
checked. There you go. You know who didn't like mine? Ariel Cohen.
Is that
which
right?
was
It
weird.
comes up?
I don't understand how, because why did Ariel Cohen not like my draft? Chris Towers didn't like my draft, which again, he doesn't like a lot of things.
Yeah.
But and I love you, Chris. But like, how could you not like this draft? I don't understand. Maybe not enough closers for you, but I mean, I got your Josh Naylor, I got your Albies, I got Mark Vientos, I took Acuna later on. I feel like I've got Santander. I feel like I've got Justin Steele. I don't understand. This feels like a very Ariel kind of roster. Maybe you need to update your rankings. So I'm just saying. Ariel.
Yeah, Chris Towers usually hates my draft when I do them on Fantasy Pros. I don't know why. Scott White likes mine. So is
There you
Scott
go.
Pianowski.
By the way,
That's a
Ara,
tough
when was the
one to
last
get.
time you beat me when we played in league together, head to head?
Ooh, man,
Oh.
this show got serious real fast here.
Well,
Yes,
I
it
lost
did.
last year to you in a league. I did finish second, so.
Yes, and you lost the year before, and when we had our home league, I think I won like 3 straight years also. So I'm using your draft
The
material
hell
maybe
is
better
this,
than
Ruben?
you.
Let's
was
wrap
bad.
my Ariel show.
But no, but
Rue's
you're
gone
better
rogue here on the show.
but you're
Wow.
better in season, and that's where I'm not as good. So that's where you make up a lot of stuff because the projections are great, but when it comes to the full draft and managing your team, you're very good at that.
Well, in those leagues, if I recall, if you beat me, you finish first and I finished in second or something like that. It's not like I
That
do
feels like a
terrible.
real back.
No, that's true. That's true. That's true. That's true.
All right. Well, to wrap this up, Joe, did you accomplish your goals here? And maybe tell us what is maybe your favorite pick and your least favorite pick of this.
Yeah, look, the catcher run hurt me. I hate 2-catcher leagues. Everyone who watches my stuff knows. I think they're just unbearable because who cares? Like, why do we want to have Luis Campusano drafted? Like, who cares? What are we doing here? Miguel Amaya. Like, these are the guys you want to hang out with in fantasy? No, that's no fun. Look, in a deeper league, I actually like this team quite a bit. I think projections are a little tough on this team in some spots because you have some unknown things, but looking at the roster, I think the infield with Naylor, Albies, Lindor, Vientos is very strong. The outfield with Churio, Santander, Luis Robert, again, it's a little bit of a risky pick there. Crow Armstrong, Jock Peterson, Jung Ho Lee. Pitching, I love this staff. I mean, if you give me Snell, Steele, Rodon, Sandy Alcantara, Eovaldi, Bowden Francis, Luzardo, Severino, I would go to war with that any day. And I took the kids that I believe in. Campbell and Acuna, I believe, are going to play more months for their respective teams as starters than less months. And that's just my belief between Trevor Story and between, what's going on with Devers there. And I feel like the organization is kind of forcing his hand a little bit to a different position. I think those guys are going to make an impact this season in fantasy. So again, it's get your guys. That's your job, and get as much talent as you can. How do you guys feel about your teams?
Ruben?
Well, I think I did okay. I had to reach a couple of times. I reached a couple for closers, which is not the worst thing to do. If you're going to reach, closers is the way to go. And by the way, my pitching staff, I got Logan Webb, Tanner Bybee, Zach Eflin, Ranger Suarez, who's all pretty good, and Nestor Cortez. I mean, if I know I do have another pitcher on my roster. His name is Otani, but I don't think I'm going to play him as a pitcher if he can't. But I'm very comfortable with what I did. I think my first the only thing I reached for was the relievers, but I thought I made up with it at the end to get some middle relievers toward the end, which have some upside. And I wasn't concerned with batting average. I didn't look at batting average that much. I'm looking at those counting stats. I want to see the counting stats. Batting average. Sometimes it's potluck. You don't know if a hitter is going to be doing well or not. And I also took what the draft gave me. Because I'm drafting two, you do have to reach a little bit more, so I'm not concerned that I had to do too much reaching. But, according to Fantasy Pros, I think I'm pretty good. What about you, Ariel?
I definitely didn't have to reach, and that, to me, again, was by picking in the middle. My catchers are great. My outfield is stellar. Tucker, Reynolds, Suzuki, George Springer, Jake McCarthy, and Giancarlo Stanton. That's excellent. I think Stanton was one of my better picks. I like that a lot. I don't love my pitching staff. I like the closers on here with Hader and Helsley and a shot at Puck. But the staff, Kirby, Jared Jones, Christopher Sanchez, Pepio, Lodolo, Brian Bayo, Clay Holmes. I feel like I'm missing a number 2 starter there. I guess I didn't read the room well in terms of pitchers being pushed up that much. I also don't like my middle infield. I had to go with the middle infielder of Hai-Sung Kim. Again, it's a lesson that I stated before we started, that the middle infielder, especially second baseman, are really pushed up, and I didn't reach for them. Sometimes you got to reach a little bit or you're going to get locked out. So while I got the value in other places, didn't quite make it in there. I'm not in love with this draft, to be honest with you. It's not the worst I've done, but nah, this is not my favorite draft.
Well, you remember retrospect, that's like, I don't know if I want to go this early with Snell. I'm happy I did, because there were a couple pitching runs and I still was able to get. See, I'm taking shots on some of these guys that I was talking about earlier, the Shea McClanahan's, the Sandy Alcantara's, right? Like those are potential number 1 guys if things break right, and the fact you're still getting them around 50 overall is stunning. Sean Manaea continues to go way too late, I think, too. Again, I don't want to sound like a homer here, but the guy clearly figured something out, and the Mets paid him, and he's going back to where he figured it out. And I think you have to stand up for that, and you look at guys like Justin Steele, and you feel good about, can they make some number 1 starter type starts for you? And I think, in a deeper league, those are kind of guys are super valuable.
And I noticed you only took 2 closers. Do you normally try to go more than 2? You want to go 3? Because I picked a whole bunch of relievers.
Again, what I say is, it's harder to find great off. Like, I want to get these young kids locked on my roster. I want to get power locked. I want to get all the bats I can get. The one thing that cycles every year is what? It's closers. And you know what? I'll spend my fab there. Like that's my approach to it. Is like, if I have to go out and get a guy because somebody got hurt, well, I'll be the guy that overbids for him and try to just patch it together that way. Because at the end of the day, that is the most replaceable thing I can find is saves. Everything else out there. And this is kind of like why I prefer, different formats personally, is because, I don't think a save should be as valuable as a win. And Roto makes it that way in a lot of ways. And I think that's kind of a strange way of thinking about it. One is 5 innings, one is 1. So I just, I think it makes artificial values on things. And by the way, I was really excited last year with the rules changes that stolen bases came back in a big way. That was very exciting. I feel like now stolen bases can be found. I think it's power that you're searching for a little bit more now.
Absolutely agree. All right, well, this has been a fantastic show. I hope the audience has gotten a little bit out of it, strategy here and there from all of us. Joe, thank you so much for coming to the show. Why don't you tell everybody where we can see your stuff?
Well, gentlemen, it was a pleasure hanging out with you and talking baseball. You can find me over at Fantasy Pros, our MLB channel. Fantasy Pros MLB is out there rocking and rolling. Myself, the Welsh, and our amazing team over there. So you can check out the podcast there for baseball. And I'm on Sports Grid, too, every single Sunday. You can catch me on there talking baseball, 2 hours of fantasy baseball. You don't get a lot of that on TV. And, of course, the new Fantasy Baseball Black Book is out there right now on Amazon. Go pick it up. Some great minds, Kelly Kirby, the Welsh, myself, Casey, Bubba, Joe Rico, all contributors to that. And you can go out there and get ready for your season. It's just going to be updated for March 1st, too. So a lot of guides don't get updated. Ours does. So get your Black Book on Amazon.
I just ordered mine 3 days ago. So
you're such a good friend, Ariel. You're such a good friend. I'm going to order you a pair of pants. That's what I'm going to get you.
Okay. Free pair of pants with your Black Book. Okay.
No, just for you.
No, just for
No
me.
more shorts. It's cold out here. It's
All right, that and the $1 that I might get by Tanner Scott will get me far. You know.
I'll see you. I'm staring at that bobblehead you had to buy me a couple years ago right
It's
now.
a nice bobblehead, I have
It's
to
a
say.
beautiful bobblehead. It's fantastic. Short king on the throne. You got to love that.
Jose Altuve, yep. Great bet. That was great. All right, Ruben, what about you?
Well, I mean, I think I'm going to get you a new sweater also. But you can follow me
Yeah.
on Twitter.
Look at this. I'm getting clothing right on the show here. I'm just going sweater and pants.
ClotheArielCone.com right now. So that's good.
You can follow me on Twitter, X at MLB Injury Guru, where I tweet out injury updates as they come. I also have a weekly article coming up at the end of March on Rotoballer discussing all the injuries coming up. We're going to find out a whole new injuries as players start actually ramping up, and we'll see the next people up, and we'll see how they work.
And I'm Ariel Cohen over at Fangraphs, over at Rotoballer, ATCNY on the Twitter, and ATC projections are now up on Fangraphs, Rotoballer, RotoWire, and Yahoo Sports. So take a look at that all over the place. We're out there. All right, Joe, this was a fantastic show. Thank you so much for joining once again. And from all of us here at Beat the Shift, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Beat the Shift podcast presented by Fangraphs. Follow us on Twitter at beat_shift_pod.